So, hi, Chris.
Hi, Linda.
So it's so good to talk to you, and thank you for agreeing to spend a little bit of time talking to me about your use of, well, what we're now calling essential motivators, but that had been called in the past temperament, and still is by some. So tell me a little bit more about and share with people a little bit about what you do, and then I'll ask you a few more questions, and we'll see where it goes.
Sounds great. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very fortunate to be able to speak with you today. You're one of my favorite mentors and colleagues, so I just have to start there. A little bit about myself and my work. I am I shouldn't say I am. I have been in the corporate training and development field for over 9 years as a leader and a director, creating training from the ground up for organizations that have had no budget, no staff, or no resources, and growing an organization to over a five-person staff, $500,000 budget, 2 conference centers, and curriculums for all levels of leadership for 3,000 people. So that's a little bit about my day-to-day work. I've also, as you know, studied with you extensively, and also am in the process of co-authoring a personality type model with you, Linda. So that's also very exciting and thrilling. And I don't know if we'll have time to talk about that today, but it is based off of your work on cognitive dynamics and the work of Dr. John Beebe. Both, that model is the intentional styles model, and I'm just so delighted to have had the opportunity to work with you on that. And then I would also say right now I'm creating a new series of smaller online courses to help the people that I work with discover their personal genius and also to design a vital life that they want to live and live with impact. So that's the work that I'm doing these days.
Oh, wow. Well, I love your title, Personal Genius. You've always been really good about coming up with those kinds of quintessential names for things. So congratulations on that. So what I'd like to know a little bit about is, well, in all of that rich history of things, how have you used the Essential Motivators model in your work? And then, of course, what kind of results have you seen? So just start off with a little bit about how you used it. What did you do with it and that kind of thing?
Okay, here we go. So I mostly work with purposeful leaders, healers, and creative people. And that's really the forte that I like to spend my time with, because I find myself included in that group of people. The first way that Essential Motivators has really shown up for me is helping people discover what's true for themselves about who they are. And once they kind of get a sense of that, it starts to ignite a little bit of passion and movement towards going deeper in self-discovery and self-reflection work. So just scratching the surface with Essential Motivators has been super empowering for my people. I also have I started way back with you learning about my personal Essential Motivators to get a sense of who I was myself, and really starting at the ground, because I knew that if I didn't understand myself, I couldn't help anyone else understand who they were. So that was
Right.
really powerful for me to go through your certification courses and to really dwell deep and look at, who am I? So yeah, so that was a good start for me.
So when you say what's true for themselves, and in what sort of how it helped you find what was true for you, could you tell us a little bit more about what that's like?
Yeah, so when I work with my coaching clients, and we look at what's important to them, what do they value in their life? What sort of skills and language do they use in their day-to-day expression and in their work? That's really where we start to get clues about the essential motivators that work behind the scenes. Because one of the things that I came to understand in your program was that essential motivators are not on the surface. A lot of times they're hidden, and we have to kind of shine lights on those different aspects for them to actually start to take shape and give us form to our personality and to understand those dynamics. So that's the very first place that I started working with people, is to look at those aspects of type.
Wow. So I can see how, especially in the work you're doing now, that can really open people up to discover their personal genius. Can it go back to something a little bit in the past and all of that kind of corporate work you did, the work you've done with organizations, even though it's not where you're working now, where you're not applying your genius there, but I think it might be helpful for people who are in that arena to understand a little bit more about how you did that work and what kind of results you got.
Yeah, so after I started to learn about myself, I did take it back to my organization. I implemented small workshops in the organization for staff members. And then ultimately, I went and reached out to leadership and started to teach these principles and the methodologies to the leadership body so that they could better understand their teams and also to better understand their own sense of growth with the actual team structure. Because I have found in working with leaders that a lot of times their job is really focused on managing their staff, and their development can sometimes be put by the wayside. And so it was really important for me to help them cultivate not only their team development, but also their personal development so that they don't forget about themselves as well. So that happened by doing individual one-on-one sessions with leaders. It happened by doing team interventions with the Essential Motivators type lens. And ultimately, it resulted in working with our executive leadership in the organization. And that's really where the most impact came, because once the senior leadership team understood the dynamics that were at play with people in their organization, and that they had to address the people aspect before the work itself can get done, things started to shift. And I would say that we had more forums and formats for individual teams to do this work. That was really opened up in the organization. And I also had people coming to me individually and saying, I really thought I was going to leave my job, and I'm glad I didn't, because something shifted in my leadership and something shifted in my organization, and now I'm able to be a bit more myself at the job. So that was sort of evidence that the Essential Motivators lens was starting to take hold and really helping people negotiate their dynamics on the teams.
Wow. So what you have in there in some ways is it addressed retention as well as engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So that should have had some really, really good benefits there. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you also, as a training and development leader, it helped me refine my language so that who I was speaking to, I could better speak into what it is that was important to them. Once I understood that there were the motivators for the 4 different styles, I really tried to hypothesize and shift my language and conversation so that I was meeting the needs of whoever I was working with. And I got to say, it's better to try that than to just sort of go on autopilot and really miss the mark in our communication. So very, very powerful insight and lesson I learned from using Essential Motivators.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I've experienced, is that it's a first step to really, well, it can be a first step to perspective shifting and really trying out different language. And, if it doesn't work, well, you try another one. And it helps people, I think, feel like you're speaking true to them. So it isn't like, selling a car and I know you want blah, blah, blah. But that it helps, that going back to what you said about it, helping people understand their own truth. And so if you understand somebody else's truth, it reminds me of an activity that we give people sometimes to, think of a person you want to improve your relationship with. Now, if we've had the Essential Motivators, what's yours, what's theirs? Or what do you think theirs is? And then how might what they're doing that irritates you make sense in that perspective? So it sounds like you also model that for other people as well.
I try. That's the key here. And that's the differentiator, in my opinion, is the actual effort of trying to implement the work and the knowledge of Essential Motivators. I'll tell you, in addition to that, in the teaching of my courses, I apply Essential Motivators to the design of the course modules now. And that was an inspired step that I gathered from reading some brain and neuroscience research out of Stanford University on the importance of learning styles, and how learning styles in and of themselves really have no intrinsic benefit for people. But when you combine all the learning styles, and in my case, the essential motivators, into the course design for my students or my participants of a course that I've created, it gets them to practice the brain skills of being in those all the other essential motivator styles that maybe they don't have a lot of facility with, but it helps them to grow and develop other perspectives. So I really, really strongly believe in using the energy of essential motivators in teaching and in providing information for my participants.
I just have to laugh because I'm currently wrapping up the Berens Interaction Styles certification program, and there are detailed instructions in the past the resource page in the learning platform, and so we give them these things to homework, right? Because it is a class. so somebody said to me, I'm really confused. And she was attributing that confusion to interaction styles because it was very informing of me, which is an interaction style quality. And then, so I wrote it in a directing style. And she said, well, here's my view of that, and wrote me a bullet point list, step 1, 2, 3, 4. And I went, and I don't even think that other essential motivator pattern is the one that she mirrored. I don't think it was hers, but it was what she needed. So it was the stabilizer, give me some detailed, specific, concrete instructions. And she mirrored that. And so we had a good time laughing about it in the group. And I posted it and redid it on the website. And and here is Stacy's or Tracy's instructions. Here are mine and here are hers. And so it's really so cool when we make it visible. And as much as I know this, actually managing to put it into the design in ways, because I've been doing a lot of things and all at once it was too much and I didn't step outside my own frame. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. It reminds me that for the upcoming Essential Motivator certification training, I think I'll take a little lesson from that.
Yeah, for me, what's been powerful about designing with essential motivators is really just moving people through the 4 different styles by first engaging a sense of purpose or deeper understanding about themselves with the content, and then really sharing the key concepts and the key theories that are important to understand about the body of knowledge. And then I like to move them into some skill practices so that they get a chance to build those skills and to build some processes into getting some mastery or some facilitation with the content. And then finally, I like to kind of move them into sort of what I would say the improviser would do, which is how would they improvise the content on the job and in their lives? How would they make it more customized in the moment? And how would they take advantage of the opportunities that also exist outside of the basics that you've taught them? So I like to move them through a cycle of using all 4 styles if I can. And that's been really engaging for a lot of people.
Great. So we were talking about, I was talking about a stabilizer example. You were giving an improviser example. And of course, you and I might equally share, I could say about a theorist example, which is where I was. Here are all the concepts and the theory, and if you know the principles behind it, you can be generative. And so what do you do for the catalyst?
Catalyst is really digging deep about the personal perspectives one has on the content, and also what sense of personal purpose do we want to connect with when we're learning the content. Because we're not just learning for learning's sake, although there are some things we do that with. But for a catalyst, if the catalyst can't connect personally with the content and understand how it's going to impact and change and transform them, then a lot of times they'll check out or they'll move on and just ignore the content itself. So I know for myself, being catalyst preferenced, if I don't have a sense of purpose with the content, like for me, learning about Essential Motivators was about learning about me personally so that I could go out and help other people. So I always like to start there with the catalyst perspective on why is this important for you to learn at this time in your life? And if you do apply it, what's going to shift for you in your life? And it gives them the fuel to go through the rest of the content and the practices.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited about having had this time to chat with you because I've learned a few things I'm going to apply now in the next, the next 24 hours, which is cool. And I've also gotten to know a little bit more about where you're up to right now because we haven't talked about that. So I think what I'd like to have you close with is just how, if somebody really wanted to go through this process you've described a little bit more or hinted at, how would they reach you?
Sure. I would say to close this up for me, I want to just say for me, the reason why I like Essential Motivators is that it allows you to leverage, a variety of situations, to leverage your impact with people, to be accessible to people on their level, on what they're dealing with, on what's important to them, to have a body of sound theoretical frameworks that you've taught me, and also to be connecting with other people on a deep personal level. And when you hit all four of those areas, for me, that is the fruit that has come out of the model for me. So if people are interested in knowing more about me or my work, they can always visit me at chrismontoya.net. And from there, they can send me a message or see what I have to offer there. But really, for me, Linda, this has been an experience of moving the needle in my can I talk today? My professional growth, my personal growth, and quite frankly, also understanding the needs of other people. So you've really just cultivated one of the best models I've seen in order to do that. So I have to just say thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure to have and good fortune to have studied with David Kersey in my master's program and later having him as a mentor. And then the good fortune to work with enough people like yourself in looking at how to do training and facilitating and just having a pool of people to check things out with and refine and sort of bring the model into a language that was useful and refine a few things. So that has been great. And there's one more thing I want to say that I learned from you today, and that is just a reminder that we have, and what I liked about what you said is that what you get in touch with is that within me, there's my home base, Essential Motivator, and then there are all the others are there. So it sounds like in your work with people, you're helping them not only discover their own genius, but tap into other aspects that they might have ignored that they could use to support that genius.
Beautiful, but yeah, it's exactly what I would have echoed. Thank you.
Thank you so much.